Let's make a start then. So, of course, I'm Matt, and tonight's session is courtesy of the Chartered Institute of Legal Execs, and this is all about LinkedIn profiles and how that relates to you guys in the legal profession. So we're going to walk through mainly a PowerPoint presentation tonight, and unlike the CV session we did a couple of weeks ago, there isn't quite so much to show you on screen. I have done that before where we flitted to and from LinkedIn profiles, but it tends to be a little bit distracting. So I'm just going to talk mostly through the theory of it tonight, and hopefully that'll give you some really good insight. So, okay, without further ado, let's get cracking then. So for those of you who haven't been on one of our webinars before, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background about me and us. I work for a company called the CV and Interview Advisors. This is my business. I think there are about, 15 of us now in total, and we consider ourselves to be the UK's highest quality provider of, I guess, what we lump together as career enhancement services. So it's all about personal branding, it's about CV writing, it's about LinkedIn profiles, it's about cover letters, anything that you might, we do a lot of interview coaching as well, anything that is giving people the tools they need to develop their careers. That's what we specialize in. We got a team, we call them personal branding specialists. So these are people who help people to develop their own personal brand. And it's quite an interesting point to make quite early on. I wonder how many of you guys out there, and you don't need to tell me, but I just wonder how many of you guys actually have ever thought about brand you. What is your brand? Whether any of you have even considered that concept. And you probably haven't, but it's something that's becoming more and more prevalent, and people are starting to really think about their own personal brand, and it's all about marketing yourself more effectively to the job market, but also just in your professional life generally. So I have a team of very experienced people here, people who are experienced career consultants, but a lot of my guys come from senior industry backgrounds, so people that have been senior management level in their own careers. Yeah, quite a few grey hairs and whiskers kicking around our offices. We also operate as a sort of resident expert on these matters to various chartered institutes, membership bodies, recruitment businesses, and job boards. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. That's the boring slide done now, so we'll move on to some more interesting points. Just a point, my colleague, or virtual colleague here, that you can see in the right-hand corner of your screen, I like to call her Jen. She's going to drop some little nuggets of information in at the bottom of each page. And these nuggets are quite designed to be quite thought-provoking. A lot of people are quite curious and intrigued about us and what we do. In fact, they quite often attend a webinar, and that's the first time they've ever realized that actually companies like us exist. And then we start talking about CVs and LinkedIn profiles, and at some point, of course, we're going to mention that we write people's CVs and LinkedIn profiles, and then they start thinking, oh, blimey, I didn't even realize that existed. And it raises this whole question about what sort of person invests in this sort of thing. So we sort of like to educate people a bit on this, and just, I think, break down some preconceptions, because you might think that it's kind of maybe illiterate people, or maybe untalented people, or maybe people that just are so old-fashioned they don't even have a PC or a laptop, or people who just can't read or write that buy these kind of services, and obviously they're buying them because they're not able to do it. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Most of our clients, in fact nearly all our clients, have even a half-decent CV and LinkedIn profile. It just so happens that our clients are usually savvy, experienced, knowledgeable people that realize that outsourcing the creation of what you could argue would be some of the most important documents that they will ever own it's not a bad idea. So we've written CVs for, I remember personally writing a CV for a Premier League football chairman. That was really interesting. But, you know, top executives, we've written CVs for barristers, real senior people in the CPS, lawyers, solicitors, legal executives, paralegals, graduates, the whole kind of range of people. So anyway, that's a bit of background on us. Let's get stuck into it now. So what is LinkedIn? Usually, I would say probably 75% of the people that we talk to know what LinkedIn is. Another maybe 5–10% have a reasonably good idea but don't do much with it, and there will be a few people who maybe never even come across it before. But just for the benefit of everybody, let's just have a look at the history of it, because LinkedIn, I mean, I remember when I left university and I had a job in sales, and every time I met a client, we would exchange business cards. That's kind of what people did way back then. I'm showing my age now, but we used to exchange business cards. And after a while, I realized that I couldn't just have them all kicking around my glove box in my car. I needed to actually have some kind of professional place to put all these business cards. So all my professional contacts ended up in this nice little leather folder that I kept, and pretty soon that got full, and I'd get another one, and that got full, and I'd get another one. Used to get them for Christmas and things like that. But yeah, it was like a little leather binder with everybody's business card in it that I used to use to keep all my business contacts all in one place. Well, LinkedIn is kind of that, but online. So it's a place where you keep all your business contacts all in one place, but of course now everything's done online, isn't it? So that's kind of the original purpose of it, if you like, and people obviously would then network with one another, send each other messages and find each other and find like-minded people and ask each other questions and help each other out. General networking, that's what networking's about. Networking's about helping each other out. A community of people that sort of help each other out, yeah? So that's what LinkedIn kind of facilitated, if you like. But pretty soon, it has now 260 million members worldwide, would you believe? So pretty soon, people in the recruitment industry kind of cottoned onto LinkedIn and realized that all these professional people were all in one place. And the beauty of LinkedIn is you can search. The power of LinkedIn is its search functionality. If you're looking for I don't know, somebody, you know, a personal injury lawyer who lives in Tokyo that specializes in a certain particular area of personal injury law, you know, through the power of LinkedIn, you can search for that person and find them. So it's fantastic, and as I said, recruiters kind of cottoned on to this, and it's now the biggest candidate database in the world. Make no bones about it, guys. This is where recruiters are looking for job seekers. But not just recruiters as well. It's got many other uses. I am currently looking for a marketing person. So where do I go looking for these people? I go looking on LinkedIn. I'm currently recruiting another couple of personal branding specialists. Where do I go looking for them? I go looking for them on LinkedIn. In fact, we've previously needed the assistance of an intellectual property lawyer. Where did we go looking for them? We went looking for them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where everybody goes looking for other professionals, and it's certainly where recruiters go looking for candidates. So if you've not embraced LinkedIn yet, you really need to, and I'll touch on that more as we go through it. Let's have a look at the different groups that use LinkedIn. So job seekers, of course, you can seek out jobs. LinkedIn has its own job board. You can seek out companies proactively, and you can seek out hiring managers proactively. So job seekers use LinkedIn. Professionals use LinkedIn. I don't know whether any of you have noticed, but when you make an appointment to meet somebody in a business capacity, quite often that person will show up on your LinkedIn profile as somebody that's viewed your profile. LinkedIn very cleverly tells you who has viewed your profile over the last few weeks. It's business behavior now. Whenever you meet somebody in business, typically people will check that person out on LinkedIn. If you're not doing that, that's fine. It doesn't mean that you're the odd one out, but it does mean that you're probably in a minority. So not everybody's doing it, but a lot of people are. A lot of people will do that now. It's kind of become business behavior. You know, I've got a business meeting with XYZ. I'm going to go and check them out on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is your professional footprint online. It's public and it's there for everybody to see, and they can derive a lot about you as a fellow professional from looking at your LinkedIn profile, or at least they think they can. Recruiters and hiring managers will use LinkedIn to source candidates. I did some consultancy work back end of last year with a company that wanted me to help them become better at marketing their candidates through CVs and LinkedIn profiles, and also how to better prepare candidates for interviews. So I did some consultancy work with them. These guys are top-tier providers to some of the big banks in the city, and I observed in their office that 2 or 3 of their consultants literally spent the whole day making contact with people on LinkedIn. So that's how recruiters and hiring managers also find candidates for jobs. Entrepreneurs, so people like me, will use it to showcase and grow their business, and salespeople will use it to find and contact potential clients. And I'll give you an example of this. So the legal sector is professional services. We are in the process of talking to one of the world's leading professional services organization, because they've acknowledged that the LinkedIn profiles of their staff are nowhere near where they need to be. So from an external kind of image perspective, from a PR perspective, from a marketing and business development perspective, they're behind the curve. So they're reaching out for help from professionals who are experts in that space to help them, I suppose, develop some kind of consistency and thoroughness across all their LinkedIn profiles that their employees have. But certainly if somebody is a fee earner or is in a business development role, if they're not using LinkedIn, they're really missing a trick. So that's what it is. You know, and it's not, Jen's dropping in another little nugget here, it's not like filling out a form. You know, it kind of fools you to think that, because when you start filling in LinkedIn, it tells you what percentage it is complete. But that's a bit of a red herring. But, you know, it's not like filling out a form and just making sure all the boxes are full. It's not like Facebook. It's more like a website. You know, what you write in your profile is important. The fact that you've filled out every section is less important. Actually, what the message you're delivering through your profile is absolutely essential. Okay, so let's have a look at specifically job seeking, because I guess that's the thing that you guys are going to be the most interested in. And let's throw this little nugget in at the bottom straight away. More people found a job through LinkedIn than they did Monster.com last year, and that trend is set to continue. I think that's really hits home how big LinkedIn has become. 2 types of job seeker. You've got passive job seekers and you've got active job seekers. Passive job seekers, typically people who are reasonably happy where they are. They're not going hell for leather to find another job, but you know what, if someone knocks on their door and there's a fantastic and amazing opportunity out there, they might be interested. So we're all passive job seekers, really. And then you've got active job seekers, and those are people who are actually actively looking for a new job at this particular point in time. But what does LinkedIn give to those 2 groups of people? Well, first thing you can do is you can search for jobs and apply for them. LinkedIn has a job board, and you know what? As an employer, I've used LinkedIn to find staff, and it's really good. You get a very, very good quality of applicants. So I think LinkedIn's got a really good job board. There are some excellent job boards out there who do just that. But LinkedIn kind of cottoned on to the idea that it was a good idea to have a job board, and their job board is very good. So there's some good jobs on there. You can seek out jobs and you can apply for them. But what you need to be doing is using the power of your networks. If you see a job on LinkedIn that you think is suitable for you, don't just go ahead and apply for it. First thing you want to do is have a look and see who in your network. So these are people that you're connected to. So a little bit like what I said earlier when I used to have all those people in my business card folder, you'll have the online version of that. So over time, you might have hundreds. I've got 700-800 people that I'm connected with. So if I ever wanted to apply for a job, first thing I'd do is see, right, who in my network works here? Or who in my network knows somebody who works there? And you can actually start networking, talking to people on LinkedIn, making contact with people, and you're only going to be a few steps away from the hiring manager. If you know somebody that knows the hiring manager, get an introduction, and you're more likely to get inroads into that particular opportunity because you've got some kind of mutual connection. That's how networking works. So you use that power. The other thing you can do is you can actually just physically search for decision makers in target organizations. So, say for example you've identified a company that you'd like to work for, or a law firm that you'd like to work for. Just use the search functionality on LinkedIn. Go and find out who one of the partners is, or who one of the main people in their recruitment team is, and make yourself known to them. And then, you can send people messages, you can connect with them, you can add them to your network. That's the whole point of LinkedIn. It's to network. It is a professional networking site. So do that. Be active on there. Be proactive. If you're looking for a job, make the right connections with the right people, and then put yourself in a really good position next time that particular person has a vacancy. Okay. So I think we've kind of covered that point by default. Use your own network to find other contacts, get introduced. The other thing you can do is in the groups. So LinkedIn has a group. There's pretty much a group for everything. If you wanted to find a group of botanists in, Timbuktu, there's probably a group for Timbuktu and botanists. You can join that group, and then you can participate in discussions about botany in Timbuktu. With you guys, it's going to focus around law or specific areas of law that you're interested in or operate within. But you can join these groups and you can participate in discussions. And the beautiful thing about this is that you can contact people within your group without necessarily being connected to them. So normally, unless you're connected to somebody, so I couldn't just send one of you guys a message unless we decided that we were going to connect. So you might send me a connection request, I might send you a connection request, and if you want to, fine. But if we send each other a connection request and one of us agrees to that, then we're connected, and we can then send each other messages. But if we're not connected, we can't. But if you were in the same group as me, then we could. We could send each other messages. So joining a group where decision makers or hiring managers might hang out gives you real good scope for contacting people. But also when you participate in these discussions, you're building your authority. You look like somebody who's an influencer. If you've got intelligent things to say, people might sit up and listen and think, that person knows their stuff. Maybe that's a good person for me. Next time they're recruiting, they might remember you. If they don't, you'll remind them, okay? This is all about networking. So participate in discussions in groups. Find groups where hiring managers and decision makers hang out. If you're a contractor, one thing that's a really good thing to do on LinkedIn is to contact your past clients. So if you've done a contract, you were there 6 months, connect with everybody that you worked with, and then maybe 3-6 months down the line, just send them a message saying, hi guys, how's it going? Make contact with them. You'll be surprised how many times they'll all of a sudden think, yes, we've got this vacancy coming up in a few weeks' time. You'd be perfect for it. But you know what? If you hadn't have reminded them of your existence, that vacancy would have passed you by. So again, it's all about networking. And most importantly, I'm going to reinforce this message. This is where recruiters find candidates. Okay? Good. Excellent stuff. So let's talk about some specifics. I'm just going to quickly grab a little sip of water. Whilst I'm doing that, I'm going to just check and see whether anybody's got any questions for me. Make sure you're all there and still happy. Excellent. Looks like you're all there. Fantastic. So let's have a look at the profile. So this is, we've talked a lot about what it is, what LinkedIn is, and how you use it. But let's have a look at the profile is the bit that you fill out. This is the bit that describes you to other people on LinkedIn, right? So let's talk about that in detail. So there's some key components to this. The first bit is the professional headline. I'm not going to flick it up on screen because when I flick from document to document, it's just confusing and irritating. The professional headline simply is the bit that sits under your name. And it defaults to whatever your job title is and the name of your employer. So mine would default to Managing Director at the CV and Interview Advisors. Yours might default to Personal and Injury Lawyer at XYZ Law Firm. It's not terribly insightful. What you need to do is to turn it a little bit more into a value proposition. So the best way to describe that is what I've done on mine. If I was actually very hands-on, if I was like delivering, if I was operating as a CV writer or an interview coach, which I don't do so much now, I'm more strategic. But if I were, I would probably say that I'm an experienced career coach or career enhancement specialist, adept at developing leading-edge personal marketing collateral that significantly helps my client's ability to get a job. Something like that. My wife might tell you she doesn't use LinkedIn very much, but she might put something on there that she's an experienced personal trainer with a track record of developing leading-edge exercise and rehabilitation programs that significantly improve the performance of athletes. Our marketing manager, Claire, might put that she's an experienced marketing manager with a track record of developing low-cost marketing strategies that deliver exceptionally good return on investment for SMEs. You get my point. It's kind of, what is the purpose of your professional existence? What is your value to your future employers or your clients if you're a contractor? So you're trying to capture a value proposition statement in this professional headline. So simply tell the world what you're good at and what you can do for them. The kind of key section, I say the key section, one of the key sections is the summary. And I'm going to talk about that in more detail, but this is almost the focal point, if you like. But this needs some care and attention. I would imagine quite a few of you joined my CV writing webinar that I did a couple of weeks ago. But we talked about how to write a summary on a CV. And it's the same kind of thing on LinkedIn, but there's some additional stuff that you want to incorporate in your LinkedIn profile. And we'll talk about that in more detail shortly. The positions bit. So this is essentially the career history part of your LinkedIn profile. Now the key here is, and if you remember the CV webinar, if you attended it, and by the way, if you didn't attend it, I believe that it's on the CILEx YouTube channel. If you can't find it there, give me a shout and I'll send you a link to it. But go and look on the CILEx YouTube channel first, because I'm pretty certain it's there. But you would have, if you'd when you watched that, or if you've watched it, or if you attended the webinar, you would have realized or heard me talking about the structure of each job. And there's some context building bullet points, followed by your duties and responsibilities, followed by maybe some notable cases that you've handled, or some standout achievements that you've had. So it's normally a description of your employer or firm, summary of your role. Then you would have, if you're a managerial level person, a sort of description of your team. How many people do you manage and how many direct reports do you have? Then you would have a description of your duties and responsibilities. Then you would have a description of any notable cases or achievements. So that's how you structure it on your CV. On LinkedIn, you don't do that. You just have a nice, neat, maybe 4, 5, 6 line paragraph that kind of summarizes your role in a neat paragraph. So what you're trying to do is just basically capture what your role is all about in a bit of a nutshell, in one nice, neat paragraph, and then capture a couple of real salient points in there. And then I would have a couple of real standout cases that you've been involved with or managed, or achievements that you've had in your career, or for each role. So a nice role summary followed by a couple of headline achievements, projects, or cases. What you don't do is have what you would expect to see on a CV and have sort of, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bullet points for each job. You just don't do that. It's something very different. Okay? The other thing that's great, if you got any big achievements that lended themselves to creating case studies, once again I'm going to sort of refer back to the CV writing webinar we did, on the assumption that a lot of you attended that. For those of you who didn't, apologies. But projects, we talked about case studies on CVs. So notable cases, achievements, projects can become case studies, and you can put them on your CV. I'd suggest doing the same thing on LinkedIn. So any kind of notable cases, projects, or achievements, you can write little case studies about them, little stories, and put them in the project section on LinkedIn. And I would suggest writing them using a little formula called STAR, which stands for Situation, Task, Actions, and Results. So there's an example here, which is a little bit random. It's not very legally orientated, but I'm just going to let you read through that. That's a STAR case study, but of course yours would be much more legally orientated. Just whilst you're reading through that, I just want to do a quick check that you're all still out there and that you're all still awake and you haven't fallen asleep on your keyboard. So perhaps you could just use your your questions box like you did before when we did the sound check, and just let me know that you're all still there and you're all happy. Or at least you're all still there and haven't fallen asleep. Excellent. You're all still there. Good stuff. That's always good to know, because otherwise I would literally just be sat here talking to myself, which would be rather strange. Okay. I'm just going to delete all those yes, I'm still here. So when we do the Q&A at the end, because we are going to do a Q&A at the end. Sally said, haven't dozed off yet, even though it's Monday. Yeah, I completely agree. Just deleting all these, and then when we do the Q&A, I can find your questions much quicker. Someone's asked me to repeat STAR, situation, task, actions, and results. So what you do is you describe the situation, you then describe your task, then you describe your actions, then you describe the result. And that example there about Hank's Power Solutions, which I changed the name for confidentiality's sake, that example there is written in STAR. Okay? All right, good. So let's move on. Actually, I'm just going to quickly, because Mark Morris from CILEx is on the session tonight, and Mark's our contact at CILEx. Mark always twists our arm and says, look, we're really value the services that you provide. Obviously, the webinar is free, and that's fantastic, but we also offer services. So Mark always twists our arm and says, look, if you're going to offer your services at the end, that's fine. Wouldn't expect you to do anything any different, but can you please give our members a fantastic, amazing, juicy special offer so that they don't have to pay full price? So we always oblige. But I'm going to quickly mention, there's loads more to come, I'm going to quickly mention the services that we provide. And again, for you guys that were on the CV session, quite a few people ended up buying our service after the CV session, you'll know what this is all about. But we can write your LinkedIn profile and or your CV for you. If you've got one already, we'll just make it better. If you haven't got one at all, we'll do it from scratch. As I said, our clients are usually successful and savvy professionals, so this isn't something that you do if you're not very clever. This is something that savvy, successful people do. But we're going to spend somewhere between an hour and 2 hours talking to you over the phone. So there's a bit of homework to do in advance of that session to get you thinking about you. But what we'll do is we'll spend 2 hours giving you a thorough grilling. So what we'll do is we'll clarify your objectives. What are you using LinkedIn for? It might not be for job-seeking purposes. You might be a fee earner who's going to start using LinkedIn to develop more business. You might just want to have a more professional profile so that your clients, when they look at your profile, think better of you. But we'll clarify what you're using it for, and we'll tailor the LinkedIn profile around that. But all that personal branding stuff we mentioned earlier, we're going to find out, we're going to talk about what are you? What is brand you? What is your value proposition? And we're going to help you to kind of define all that stuff. We're going to discuss your value-added skills. We're going to discuss your achievements. We're going to write you some case studies for your project section. We're going to write all those positions for you, and we know how to create those nice little paragraphs with the 2 or 3 headline achievements. Of course, when we update it, we're going to turn off all the activity broadcasts, so the changes that we make aren't beamed across your network. But we're going to pretty much write your entire LinkedIn profile entirely from scratch, and we can do exactly the same thing with your CV. So with the CVs, as well as the LinkedIn profile, we're going to create a very evidence-based document. The CV in particular is miles different to what most people have. It's much more of a business case that explains why somebody should hire you. You know, really demonstrates your professional worth on paper. So that's what we do. And we're going to offer you a special offer at the end, and I'll talk about that in a bit. Jen's dropping in another little nugget here, and this is really important, and just sort of caught my eye because I nearly missed this. This is really important. LinkedIn is just the start of the relationship. A lot of people kind of get taught on how to use LinkedIn, how to write a LinkedIn profile, and then they kind of keep everything in LinkedIn. But there's always a point where people need to get together, either pick up the phone or go meet each other. So LinkedIn's the start of the relationship, but there becomes a point where you've got to take that relationship offline and just do the traditional stuff. Meet with people, see the whites of their eyes, build trust, and do some business together. Or if it's in the recruitment context, hopefully use that meeting to, you know, convince somebody you're the right person for the job, or whatever else it might be. Now, as I said earlier, the summary is kind of the focal point. So we're going to spend some good quality time talking about this. The reason I've got an image of some elevators or lifts is because you are trying to create an elevator pitch. You're trying to demonstrate your value to whoever your target audience is through your LinkedIn summary. So the first thing you need to do is tell people what you are. I asked all of you what you were earlier, and you all gave me various descriptions of yourself. It's important you get that right. Some of the descriptions were great. Some of them I felt were a bit, oh, okay, yeah, that's a bit woolly or ambiguous, or maybe you've hedged your bets a bit. Again, we did this a lot, didn't we, when we talked about CVs, where sometimes people will say that they're an experienced legal professional professional with experience across a variety of different areas of law. I mean, what does that really mean? You might as well have just said, I'm in law. It's so ambiguous. Whereas, you know, if I'm looking for a personal injury lawyer with experience of both fast and multi-track claims, you need to tell me that for me to be interested in you. If you've just told me generally that you're a legal professional, it's too woolly. So you've got to be specific and accurate about what you're telling people you are. Once again, we're trying to capture that value proposition. I talk about it time and time again. The CV needs a value proposition. Your cover letter, if you have one, needs a value proposition. The professional headline on LinkedIn needs a value proposition, and your LinkedIn summary also needs a value proposition. Of course, when you've written it 4 times, you can't just regurgitate the same thing. You can capture the same message, but you need to sort of vary your style of saying it a little bit. But nevertheless, you need a value proposition here as well. A great way to push your worth is to think about the kind of needs that your employers or future employers or clients have. Think about the needs they have and how your skills and expertise helps them to satisfy those needs or overcome the challenges that they have. You know, so for example, somebody nicked a load of our intellectual property, and until I found out that intellectual property lawyers charge about £1,500 an hour, I was all ready to start suing people, but unfortunately it needed to be sorted out a little bit outside of the realms of that, because I did not want to waste £1,500 an hour on an IP lawyer. If there are any IP lawyers out there, sorry, okay? It was just a bit expensive. But yeah, I had to look into all this stuff, and you know, I'm thinking about how the people I looked at are thinking about how their LinkedIn profile might look. You know, if they'd said to their LinkedIn profile, you know, if you run a business and somebody has run off with all your ideas and stolen your domain name and basically tried to copy your existence, then we've got lots of experience of helping people in your shoes. You know, that would resonate. That would have resonated with me. Now, of course, I've described that to you in very layman's terms. You would write that in a better way, but I've deliberately pitched it at that kind of low level to get it so you get a feel for what you're trying to say. And actually, with LinkedIn, unlike a CV, you can be quite informal. So capturing a message like that, when a company out there with some IP issues comes along and reads that profile, that will work, because they'll be thinking, yeah, that sounds like me, and you're telling me you can solve those problems. If you then go on to say, give an example, so for example, you know, I was the lead legal counsel on a major intellectual property dispute between 2 blue chip organizations, blah, 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 then all of a sudden you said, okay, so if you've got a problem like this, our skills and expertise can help, and here's an example of when we've done it before. So I'm being very basic about the way I'm explaining it, but that's what you've got to try and do. And you can do that for maybe 3 of the key things that you do. I just made this example up earlier. You know, an example might be that someone was I'm a Leeds United supporter. Not terribly avidly. I kind of follow them loosely. Although I do find football a bit silly sometimes, I still look out for Leeds' results. And at the moment, the Football Association are trying to oust Leeds United's owner because they don't think he's a fit and proper person to run the club. So with that in my mind, I conjured this up earlier. You know, maybe in your LinkedIn profile, if this was you, you would say that you'd been legal counsel for the defendant in a legal case to disqualify a billionaire from Football League ownership. Yeah, that's the kind of example that you might throw into your LinkedIn profile. So what it does is it gives a real-life example of something that you've been involved with that is very central to the professional services or the professional legal services that you deliver. Yeah, so what are you? What's your value proposition? What kind of needs do your employers or clients have? What skills and expertise do you have that satisfies those needs? And then give a couple of examples. Yeah? So you be quite sort of footloose and fancy free with this. When we write CVs, we're incredibly prescriptive about the way we put it together. With LinkedIn, a bit more artistic flair. You can write it in the first person instead of the third person. And also add in a bit of philosophy and ethos into it. So, you know, talk about how you operate, what your kind of general kind of ethos and philosophy about your work is. So you're injecting a bit of personality into your profile. And then I would have a list of key skills. Now, there is another section on LinkedIn for key skills. I would recommend having both of them. So the ones that are searchable, have them in, but stick them in your summary as well, because they help to search engine optimize your LinkedIn profile. So actually your LinkedIn profile will come higher up on the Google searches by having this section in. In the olden days, LinkedIn had a section called specialities. So it actually prompted you to add this information in. They got rid of that, and now you kind of have to artificially add this in. So just, you know, put in a list of all your key skills. You might have 10 to 15 of them just listed, you know, like sort of 2-word sentences, and you can bullet point them. So add that in as well. So that's the LinkedIn summary. Let's have a look at getting found and being visible on LinkedIn. I've just talked about search engine optimizing your profile. So what we're saying there is the more keywords that are relevant to what people are searching on that are in your profile, the higher up the Google rankings your LinkedIn profile is going to be. But also when people are searching within LinkedIn, the more and the better and the more relevant keywords you've got, the more likely you are to get found. So make sure you do that. Recommendations. Now, definitely ask people for recommendations and display them on your profile. But the other thing I would suggest is write recommendations for other people. Because if I was to write you a recommendation, I would then appear on your LinkedIn profile, so I would be visible to all your network. Vice versa. If you wrote me a LinkedIn recommendation saying how fantastic our CV writing and LinkedIn writing services are, you would then show up on my LinkedIn profile to all my network. So if some of the other entrepreneurs that I'm connected with are looking for a lawyer and they see you on my profile, you never know, they might contact you through me and they might have some kind of opportunity for you. Yeah, you get my drift? The other thing you can do, and I've done this in the past, I've thought, oh, I haven't spoken to so-and-so for quite some time, and I just kind of want to remind them of my existence. So I've gone and endorsed them, and all of a sudden they get a little message saying, Matt Craven's endorsed you for these skills, and that reminds them that I exist. But they're also happy because they've just received some endorsements. So use the endorsements to remind people of your existence. That's a good tactic. Join groups, like I said earlier. If you join a group and you participate in that group, you are then visible to every single person in that group. So we had a couple of months ago for contractors. So we were very active in some of the LinkedIn groups just for contractors. And of course, that made us visible to all those people. And also, you can contact group members and they can contact you without having to be directly connected with you and part of your network. You can participate in group discussions and build your authority. And also, don't be shy to ask for recommendations. If you've got recommendations on your LinkedIn profile, good ones, you're 3 times more likely to be contacted about an opportunity than you would be if you didn't have any. So they're a real good thing to have. And actually, again, we recommend having recommendations on your CV. Very powerful. But only if they're well written and authentic. All these things work for all the different types of objectives people might have for LinkedIn, whether you're an entrepreneur, a salesperson, a fee earner, just a general business person who's going about their general business day, wanting to meet with people, or if you're a job seeker. These things that you can do to gain visibility work for everybody. Here's a fantastic statistic. If you're lucky enough to find yourself on somebody's shortlist, maybe because we've written your CV and you know, all of a sudden you've got a super duper CV and everybody's thinking, yeah, great. If you make it onto someone's shortlist, 85% of those hiring managers will check you out on LinkedIn. That is an astonishing statistic. But again, that is recruitment behavior. I've had people apply for jobs with our company. First thing I do is I go and look them up on LinkedIn, have a little nosy at them on LinkedIn. That's just what people do. So if someone's got a half-decent CV, but a pretty rubbish LinkedIn profile, where there's no photograph, for example, or maybe you've just not bothered to put any information underneath each employment position, it looks lazy, it looks sloppy, it looks like you couldn't be bothered. Now, I've been there. I've had one of those skeleton LinkedIn profiles with next to no information on it, and then I quickly realized loads of people were looking at it, so I thought, oh gosh, I better give this some love and attention. But you just can't afford to have a poor LinkedIn profile. In fact, you're better off not having one at all. So here's some other tricks, tips and tricks. When you're connecting with somebody, don't use the bespoke or the default message. It just says, hi, so-and-so, I would like to connect with you. Thanks, so-and-so. It sort of looks like you've not bothered. It looks like you just want to connect with them for no apparent reason. Change the message. Change the default message saying, you know, hi, so-and-so, we're members of the same group, really like some of the stuff you've been posting recently. I wondered if you'd like to join my network. Or whatever it is, whatever reason you have for wanting to connect with them, tell them what that reason is. And be a little bit, think about it a bit more. What can you offer them? What can they offer you? Be a bit more obvious about why you want to connect with that person. There are even people out there who will ask why. If someone wants to connect with them, they'll ask why. Why do you want to connect with me? And if they don't give a reasoned response, they won't connect with them. So think about why you want to connect with somebody and tell them and be a bit more personal about it. Use that tactic as well when networking. If you want to contact a hiring manager, I mean, I do it. If you know, for example, if there was an organization out there that we thought that our webinars, for example, might be useful for, we might contact them and say, hey, you know, let's talk. But I would always try and find some common ground with them, you know. So, for example, I noticed that we share a mutual connection in whoever it is, and I just wondered if you wanted to connect. So then I connect with them and then get talking to them. Or maybe, you know, we're members of the same group, so, you know, you're obviously interested in this kind of subject. You know, I wondered if you might want to chat about it. If you can find some psychological connection that links you to the person that you want to talk to, then they're more likely to connect with you and talk to you than if they feel it's just some kind of cold approach. Bullet points. That code there, ignore the brackets, that code there, if you use that code and you copy and paste that in before a sentence, it will create a bullet point. The other thing you can do is set up a vanity URL, so you can actually change your URL, that, you know, your public LinkedIn URL. It's just a load of symbols, but you can actually change that to something a little bit more strategic. So I think mine says Matt Craven, LinkedIn, CV, and interview expert, or something like that. I can't even remember, but it says something that would let people know what I do, if you like. So you can set up a vanity URL. The other thing you can do is you can move sections around. A lot of people don't know that. So they don't have to be in the order that they show in. when you put your LinkedIn profile together, there are two little black arrows in the right-hand top corner of each section. You can just click and drag and move the sections around. It is quite a hard-hitting point we wanted to make here. But I think this is true. In the year 2014, you would be considered to be just a little bit backwards for not having a LinkedIn profile. And also, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you're cutting off a big chunk of the market for job seeking, whether you're a passive job seeker or an active job seeker. You never know. Somebody might be looking for someone like you and prepared to offer 20 grand a year more. So, you know, just because you're not mad keen on moving, you never know what opportunities out there. So don't cut yourself off from those opportunities by ignoring LinkedIn. But also, you know, if you're a fee earner, as I said, I mean, I was involved in a business last year. I'm not involved in it anymore. It was a startup. We were looking for a salesperson. And I said they need to know how to use LinkedIn because that's going to be quite central and core to how they go about developing business. And it should be no different in the legal sector. So it's not just for job seekers. Here's some evidence that LinkedIn works. I'm just going to take a little sip of water whilst you read that. That was somebody who used our CV and LinkedIn profile service a while back, not that long ago. In fact, I can't remember when it was actually. But anyway, you get the point. I think that was about this time last year. But I've left it on the slides because this is a present. Actually, because I'm lazy, I'll be honest. This was a presentation that I delivered last year that I've just edited. So I'm going to put the whole damn thing together all over again. But I like that. That sort of shows. And I haven't put that up to kind of try and convince you of our services. I just wanted to put that up to show you how someone who'd given their LinkedIn profile a bit of love and attention, all of a sudden, things start happening. That's the point I'm trying to make through it. So you have a read of that whilst I ease my voice. There you go. You've probably all read that now. So we're just coming to the Q&A shortly, and I'm going to talk about this special offer. Jen's just dropping something in. Having your CV and LinkedIn profile professionally written, I kind of guessed at what your average salary might be, the average salary of this group, and I worked out that having a CV and a LinkedIn profile professionally written is probably in and around less than 1 day's salary for someone at your level. So just simply thought it was quite provoking to say, wouldn't you invest 1 day's pay to achieve the above? So yeah, there you go. So we're going to do a Q&A. So you can start popping your questions in the questions box. But I just want to talk about this special offer that I promised to Mark. So we'll do your LinkedIn profile for you. So this is the service I described earlier where you do a bit of homework and then one of my guys spends between an hour and 2 hours talking through your career. If we do your LinkedIn profile on its own, it's £150 plus VAT. Quite a lot of work at this end. It's very labour intensive, all that time on the phone, and then we're going to go away and put it together for you. That's a fairly substantial discount. And that offer ends this coming Friday, so 150 plus VAT. We'll do it as a package. Again, some of you will have watched the CV webinar, and if you haven't, you should. But we'll happily write your CV in our unique and innovative and highly effective methodology. We'll write your CV and LinkedIn profile as a package for $275 plus VAT. And that's a pretty big discount of 90 quid, or actually £88.80 I think it is, but we won't quibble over £1.20. Again, that offer runs until this Friday. And then for those of you who want to have a stab yourself, you can buy the post-webinar pack for just 20 quid plus VAT. So this is the PowerPoint slides, a CV template, a CV example, 1 month's access to our career portal, which will give you 4 CV guides, 2 interview technique guides. There's over 50 guides in the portal, but you'll get sort of limited access to it with those 6 guides. We'll also do a very detailed verbal critique of your CV and LinkedIn profile. So if you just want to get some feedback on your existing CV and LinkedIn profile, we'll do that for you. We'll give you a 10% off voucher. We'll give you access to our practice interview platform, which is an award-winning platform where you can actually practice your interview technique, and it records you so that you can watch yourself in action. It's fantastic. If you then at a later date, within the next month, buy the 275 package, we'll give you your $19.99 back. Okay? Actually, I'll extend that to the 150 offer as well. If you buy the 150, if you buy the $19.99 pack, and then within a month you buy the 150 service, we'll give you your $19.99 back. All those services you buy with this. So this is just our web address /CILEx, LI, short for LinkedIn, OCT. So www.cvandinterviewadvisors.co.uk/CILEx, LI OCT. So you can copy that down or write it down or whatever, but we will be sending out some correspondence to everybody tomorrow anyway. But yeah, I mean, and the thing to say, guys, is that people that use our services get a significant uplift in recruitment activity. You know, the CV is critical, your LinkedIn profile is really, really important. So this isn't just something you do because you want to look a bit better. This will get you significant results in the job market. So there you go. So let's do the Q&A now. I'm going to just put the, I'm going to put that up on screen. Let me go back through these one by one. So Jessica's asking, is it worth signing up on LinkedIn in such an old county as mine, Lincolnshire? Most firms are still getting used to email. Yeah, good point, Jessica. I'm expecting that most people are going to get on board with this, if not now, in the very near future. Okay, so why not lead the way with it? But you know, you'd be surprised how many people are starting to use it now, and it's people are really cottoning onto it very, very quickly. What else have we got? If you are not looking for a job, is it good to have recruitment consultants as contacts? Yeah, I think so, Jane. I mean, it can't do any harm. You know, having good relationships with recruiters. You never know. I mean, you're saying you're not a job seeker, but what if someone knocked on your door and said, look, we're looking for someone just like you, and we're going to pay you £10,000 more than what you're on at the moment? Then you probably would look at that. So it's never going to do any harm having these people in your network and having some good relationships with them. Lisa's asking what SEO stands for. Search engine optimization. So it's optimizing any kind of web-based portal for the search engines, as in Google and Yahoo and Bing and Safari. They're your search engines, and you're optimizing whatever it is that you want to go to appear higher up on those searches with all those keywords. Gail's asking, where is the default message to change? When you send somebody a connection request, the message that you're sending them pops up on your screen and you just change it. Jane's saying, what are your thoughts on getting a CV done now, even if I'm not looking for a job yet? I mean, that's a hard one for me to ask, because I don't know how imminent or likely you are to want to move on. But you know, I think everybody. I've noticed Barclays doing their life skills program, which you know I really like. I think that's good, and it's probably aimed at lower level people. But I think having a good CV and having good interview technique and having a good LinkedIn profile, in a way, these are life skills, or at least the output of life skills that I think people should have and spend a lot more time and attention on. People are really lazy with this stuff, even though we all spend 5 days a week 8 hours a day, 48 weeks of the year until we're 65 or drop down dead. That's the amount of time we put in our career. And the ticket to your career and moving on in your career, whether that be to advance or to a different job, is your CV and your LinkedIn profile and your interview technique. Yet a lot of people don't look at this stuff in anywhere near enough detail as they ought to do. So yeah, I can't answer that. It would probably be unfair of me to do so. But if you want to have a chat with me, just give us a call in the office tomorrow and we'll talk through it. Okie dokie, what else have we got? And of course, the other thing to bear in mind, guys, is just because you have a good LinkedIn profile or you've spent some time on your LinkedIn profile doesn't mean you're looking for a job. Just because you've got recruiters in your network doesn't mean you're looking for a job. As I said, we're hopefully going to win a contract to write several hundred CVs for one of the world's leading professional services organizations. If it was a bad thing, then they wouldn't be doing it. You know, there are lots of reasons why you should have a good LinkedIn profile. The recruitment angle is almost a byproduct of it. Lisa's asking an interesting question. Is it wise to have clients and competitors in your network? Think long and hard about competitors. I don't really like having competitors in my profile, although sometimes you might argue that knowing what they're doing is a good thing. But definitely I'd have clients, definitely. Michael's saying, can I clarify the rather strange bullet point code? Do you need the brackets as well? No, it's everything in the brackets, Michael, that you need. If you just copy that, everything inside the brackets, but not the brackets themselves, that'll create a bullet point. Rebecca's saying, do you have an offer just for the CV service? Actually, Rebecca, the CV and LinkedIn service is less than our normal price for a CV. But if you contact me tomorrow, I'll work out a price for you just for the CV. Yeah, Jane, coming back to your point, is it best to get a CV done now rather than when we are stressed and we've just been made redundant? I would say yes, but as I say, it's easy for me to say that because I run a CV writing business, and I don't want to come across as if I'm sort of touting for people's business. I think it's a good idea. Throughout my entire career, I've always had my CV ready to rock and roll just in case. But that's me. But yeah, I mean, being proactive in any situation in life isn't a bad idea. Okay, Sally's saying, I don't have LinkedIn, but we'll definitely look at getting this set up. Can you set up a profile and work on it before it goes live? No, you can't, unfortunately. You can't have... Once it's live, unfortunately. What you can do is turn off your activity broadcast, and you can... So there is two things. There's what people see if they're in your network, and that's everything. And then there's what people see if they're not in your network, and you can tell LinkedIn that if people aren't in your network, they can only see X, Y, and Z. So what you could do, assuming that you're not going to have anybody in your network, is just go into your settings and untick all the boxes. So what that will mean is that the general public won't be able to see anything other than just your name. And then you can play around with it until your heart's content. And then when you're ready, you can activate it. But if you do connect with people in the meanwhile, they will be able to see everything. I hope that made sense. I don't think I explained that terribly well, but hopefully that made sense. Yeah, Elaine makes a good point. If you're a criminal lawyer, you probably don't want your criminal clients on LinkedIn. No, that's a good point. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's right, Sally. A bit like public or friend profiles on Facebook, yeah. What else have we got here? Yes, Lisa, good question. Is your profile picture important? It is, and I would really recommend having a professional head and shoulders shot. Isn't it strange? Because you would never put a photograph on a CV, for the UK market at least, but you should always put a picture on LinkedIn. Strange psychology that people think one thing for one kind of channel of communication and a completely different one for another channel of communication, but that's how it is. Louise, to set up a vanity URL, I think you need to have a certain number of connections, and once you have, you can then go into your settings and do it that way. I've done it myself, but it's a while ago since I did it. My team sometimes do this for our clients, but for the life of me, I can't quite picture exactly which part of the settings it is. But if you just go to the help functionality, it'll tell you how to do that. Shirley is saying, could you use your LinkedIn profile a little like your own personal website? Absolutely, and in fact, that's what I think it is to a large extent. You know, when we quite often do CVs for contractors and freelancers, and they'll say, should I have a website? And I'll usually say, well, really, LinkedIn is that. Because there's so much more you can do on LinkedIn. You can put articles, you can put published work, you can put your CV on there, you can have videos on there. There is loads of stuff you can do on LinkedIn that's well over and above what we've talked about tonight. So, you know, really anything you can do on a website, you could do on LinkedIn. Jane is asking, just one more thing, I love adding interesting legal topics to my homepage every day to get more interest in me. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good thing to do. You know, it's showing that you're active in your market. So I think that's a great thing to do. Louise, I'm not sure how many connections you need. Sorry. Do you recommend accepting invitations from friends who are not in law and in other careers? What you've got to think about is that person going to be useful to you? Is there a purpose for you to be connected? If this person's the other side of the world and in a completely different industry sector, then probably not. But if you think that they might add some depth and use to your professional network, then yes, absolutely. Yeah, Jessica's saying the link doesn't work. It does work. You just can't click it on the screen. So yes, we'll be emailing. In fact, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just put it in the chat box. So hang on a sec. www.cvanterviewadvisors.co.uk. Times like this, I wish our web address wasn't so long. CILEx. L-I-Oct. There, I've sent that to everybody. That should work. If you click that, that should work. But yes, we will send it out tomorrow. Okay, and then Sally wanted me to go back to slide 7. Let me try and do that. I don't. In fact, what was slide 7? Let me just go back. Right, 1, 2, 3, slide 3. Slide 8, right, hang on. Slide 7, there we go. I've gone back to slide 7. It was the LinkedIn summary page, wasn't it? There we go. Okie dokie, so I've got through all the questions. So that's not bad timing, 2024, so if anybody's got any further questions, I'll be here for a minute or so more. But if that's everybody's questions answered, I shall leave you to your evening. And thanks for joining me, by the way, guys. Much appreciated. Lisa was just asking about STAR. Yes, STAR again. Just situation, task, actions, and result, really. So the situation describes the problem or the situation or the challenge. The task describes how you were involved. So what was your job title and in what capacity were you involved in this situation? the actions are the 5 or 6 key things you did to drive through a positive outcome, and the result is the outcome, ideally in tangible, measurable terms. Jessica, the post-webinar pack is available whenever, so any time really. There's no time frames on that. It's just because the other things are discounted. There is a time frame on those. Shirley, am I on Skype? I don't tend to use Skype very often. You best just get in hold of me on the phone. But if you're asking whether we can use Skype to do the 2-hour session if you buy our service, then yes, we can. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to click off now. So that's fantastic. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. If anybody's got any questions, feel free just to get in touch offline. But have yourselves a lovely evening, and I'll speak to you soon.